Alrighty. Let's set up properly here. Alright, that looks pretty good. What's up, everybody? I just realized that I can upload Periscope streams to YouTube if I save them to my phone. If you go into Periscope in the settings, you can do autosave streams. I forget what it is, but it's in your settings. That'll save it to your camera roll. Then you can just airdrop it to your laptop or whatever. Then you can upload it to YouTube. So that's what I'm going to do with this. So I'm going to try to talk a little bit more and explain what I'm doing a little more, because I want to throw this up on YouTube and hopefully it'll help somebody. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up, what I'm not doing is doing my Apple software update. I'm setting up a mix today in FL Studio 12.1, I'm not sure, I think I have 0.1. And this is another song from a friend of mine, goes by the name of JonnDeVon. It's called Dr. Sneaky. Really cool stuff, kind of like, he's got kind of a hip-hop Sunlux sound collage thing going. I really like it. It's pretty challenging to mix. But anyways, so what I'm going to do is just go through my process of setting up a mix. All I have are my files, my stems from him here. And I'm just going to work and talk through what I'm doing. Disclaimer, I don't claim to be like the world's greatest mix engineer or an expert. I just make music, produce music, and I love doing it. And I do the best I can. I watch a lot of tutorials, but I don't have any like formal training. Just sipping some coffee, but hopefully you can learn something from it. That's really all I care about. I'm doing the work anyway, so I figured, well, I might as well record it and other people can check it out too. So without further ado, yeah, and this is totally from the beginning. Like here, these are the stems, and I'm gonna go through it and just talk through what I'm doing here. All right, so the very first thing I want to do is see if I can determine what the tempo is for the song, because if I can, I want to use the tempo in my DAW in FL Studio. So I'm looking here, see if I can find a track that'll have, I can kind of pull the tempo from here. Let's see what this is. This is some claps. That doesn't really do me any good. Oops. Try the kick drum. So I can click on the little context menu here on my waveform, and I can detect the tempo. It comes up with an estimated tempo range up here. So I'm going to go ahead and just click that, and what this says, tempo has been, would you like to set the project tempo to this value? So I'm going to hit yes. So let's hit the metronome to just kind of see what happens. It may be off here. Yeah, it gets off a little bit. This could be challenging. You know what? Let me go back and look here in my email just from my client. He sent me some things about mixing this. All right, yeah, maybe let me rewind here a second and look at, he sent me some inspiration that I listened to earlier. So he says it's very much a soundtrack instrumental. Allow the listener to be taken on a ride with the depth of boosting and creative panning. Imagine the lead moog bass is a snake sliding through a room. The bass line is the lead vocal. So there you go. That's kind of his instruction. That's helpful for me to know how to prioritize things. So the bass line, he says, is to treat the bass line like the lead vocal. So it's kind of that's the main thing. And so we want that to kind of be prominent and to kind of shine through and be the focal point. So here's a couple samples of some stuff. This is a Sunlux tune. All right, so it's kind of real aggressive, punchy hip hop kind of mix. There's some ethereal stuff in there. So it sounds like he wants some real aggressive percussion, bass line, and then maybe ethereal kind of stuff mixed in. That's kind of in that world of kind of cinematic stuff that he mentioned. Okay, so I'll keep that open as a reference, kind of for getting the sound that he's looking for. There's another Mr. Oizo, Analog Worms Attack. So that's the same thing, real like upfront punchy hip hop drums and upfront bass too. So that's kind of the main thing here, is we're wanting the drums and the bass to kind of lead the show, and then like have all the other instruments, whatever they're going to be, kind of fill in and help it be kind of big and broad and cinematic. So that's kind of my general overview of kind of how I want to approach it and mix it. So that's a good place to start, actually, is just thinking about your big picture first before you get in and start doing the technical stuff. All right, well, I was going to try to get the tempo here. And it looks like this is a sample in here that's a 64 BPM sample. So that would be double that's 128. So I had FL Studio detected 128.234. I think what I'm going to do is just trash that, just to make things simple. I'm going to delete these. We're going to start totally fresh. We're going to make this exactly 128, because I have like fine tuning the tempo here. So now it's 128 flat. There's no 128.236 or whatever. All right, so we're going to try that. And usually what I like to do when I mix is, this is just me, I like dragging in my drums first and then putting my low end and my percussion, my bass, all at the beginning, because I usually build from that. Like I play bass and I play drums. Those are like my main instruments. And so that's kind of where I guess where I think. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through here and just find all that stuff. So I'll just, this is the way I do it. Again, it's not like it's right. There's only one way. So I'm going to drop the kick drum in. Let's see how many total tracks we have here. You know what? It's going to be easier if I just drag all these in at once, and then we'll rearrange them. That way, I feel like if I drag these in independently, I'm going to forget stuff, and that'll be terrible. So FL Studio 12, you can highlight a bunch of tracks, and it'll read them all. Whoops. And you can drag all of them in. So I'm just hit Control A, and I'll select all. Okay, so this is the whole tune right here. If you didn't know, a cool thing you can do if you use a mouse when you're working in FL Studio, if you click the middle mouse button, like the scroll button, it turns into a hand. In the playlist window, you can just drag stuff around. That's really handy. And then I'm also I hold Control and I scroll my mouse wheel, and that does a horizontal zoom. If I hold Option, or Alt, I guess I have a Mac keyboard. If I hold Alt and scroll, I scroll vertically up and down. So I'm holding Alt and I get this. And I hold Control and I get this. So I use that a lot. So when you see me kind of like flying around and zooming in and doing stuff, that's what I'm doing. Is I'm using Control and Alt to scroll my view or zoom my view, and I use the middle mouse button to just like click and drag this around. So that really sped up my workflow when I learned that stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is rearrange kind of what I have going here, just so it makes sense to me. And so we'll put the kick drum at the bottom. Got some toms. I've got a snare of some sort here. Got some claps. Some clicks. Oh, there's another snare. I'll put my snares together here. Where did that snare go? Another snare here. Looks like it's a little reverse snare or something like that. And then I've got looks like I've got maybe some loops going here. So I'll drop those in. Rock drums, another loop. Ooh, here's one called Hot Deep Beats. Nice. I'll move that one up there. Let's see here. Got claps, clicks, the bass, cymbal. Got a glitch beat. Got a ride cymbal of some kind here. This is mostly drums. Now that I'm looking at it. So I'm actually going to move, since this is mostly loops and bass. Thinking. I'm going to put my claps up here with the snare also. And clicks. Got a ride cymbal. Okay, and then I've got looks like this stuff here goes more towards this end of the song. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these and put them. Oops, maybe not. Move this stuff out of the way here. Kind of put them at the bottom towards the end because they go together. And then there's another track here that goes there. Okay, so what I have is all of this stuff up top here. This is all percussion and drums and loops and stuff like that. And I've got a bass and a guitar and then 2 string tracks here. So let's see here. Well, I'm just going to give it a listen just to see what I'm dealing with. So I listened to it a while ago, but I don't really remember it. That's pretty rad. I like that. All right, cool. So that's drum heavy. Basically, it's lots of drums with like a lead instrument and some kind of stringy ambient stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm seeing that there's these 2 tracks right here. If I zoom in a little bit, these 2 are happening more at the beginning with the stuff that's up here. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. sling these out here, just get them out of the way, and then move these down. So since I have so many drums, I can't really group it by like snare, kick, percussion, because there's just tons of loops and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to group these kind of by the drums by section. So I kind of have like an A section here, you can see, and a little farther down there's more like this B and the C kind of end section there. So I'm going to group all my drums that way, and then I just have the bass, the guitar, and then the 2 string tracks down here. So that's kind of my thinking there behind that. Alright, so I've got my tracks arranged kind of in a way that makes sense to me. I got my kick, tom, snare, some claps, some kick, clicks, cymbals, and then just a bunch of different loops happening here and over here. And then the instrument, the melodic instrument tracks over here, bass, guitar, and strings. Cool. So I'm going to do a save as before I go any farther, because that's what smart people do, I guess. Alright, and I'm doing this in Dropbox, so everything's backed up as I'm working. That's the way I always work. I save all my Fruity Loop projects, FL Studio stuff in Dropbox, and when I'm like multi-tracking, if I'm at a recording studio and I'm plugged into their gear and like I'm doing a session, I'm just tracking everything straight into Dropbox, so I never lose anything. You know, I don't have to mess with crashes or like losing data. It just all goes to Dropbox. Alright, so I'm going to save this as Dr. Sneaky, and I just save it as a mix. That's my mix V1 is what we'll do. And every time I go in and do mix revisions, I save a new FL Studio file. So if they like something I did on a previous mix, I can go back and look and see what I did and what the settings were, instead of just using one file and overriding it each time. Learned that the hard way. Alrighty, so we got this laid out how we want in our playlist. Okay, and then next thing I want to do is just go into each of my tracks, and if you notice, when I play this, I'll play this and I'll go to the mixer and we'll look at the master channel, see what level we're working at, what dB level we're working at here. I'll go somewhere that's loud. So you can see over here we're hitting at 0, like we're probably hitting the limiter. No, I don't have a limiter on that. But that is not what we want to do when we're mixing. You got to leave. If you're mixing, you got to leave plenty of headroom for somebody to come in after you and master it. In this case, I'm going to master it too, but I know I need to leave myself some room. So that's way too much, way too hot. And so what I usually do is I use the channel volume, or this is, other people call it like a clip gain kind of thing. And I take these down where I'm at. I go to, because it starts out, let's see here, so there's 0, and they start out at about -6 dB. And what I do is I go down, I just take all my clip gains and turn them to -10 dB. That's just an arbitrary thing, like it's not like the right or wrong value. So I can right click that, then I can copy that value, and I'll go in here and I can just right click, paste value, and then I'll have just a real quick way for me to get all of my clip gain to the same level. So I'm just going to do that really quick. This is the fun stuff right here. Paste in the value. I'm not sure that there's a way that you can... One thing I wish FL Studio did was I wish you can select multiple channels here, but then like if I select all these channels, I can't edit all the parameters of these channels. Like there's, all I can do is I can clone the selected, delete selected, move, group, zip, unzip, but I can't really, I can't edit the parameters of a clip, of a bunch of clips all at once. I have to go in and edit these values individually. I realize that I understand kind of why they do it that way, but I don't know. Just kind of complaining. I just wish it would work a different way. But it's hard to argue with free updates for life, right? I bought FL Studio like 6 years ago. I've got free updates ever since. Can't really complain. If somebody has questions, just I can see my phone. I'm watching what's going on. If you want to ask questions about what I'm doing, or tell me that I suck, that's cool too. All right, so now hopefully, now if you look over here at the master fader, it's not hitting as hard, but we're still, when that kick comes in, we're not hitting it as hard. But then also what I do is, I turn the clip gain down, but then when I go to mix, I don't want my faders set at 0. I don't want to start all my faders at 0 dB, because if I need to go up, then I don't want to run out of room. So what I can do in here, once I route all my channels, all my tracks to these different channels, I can select all these and I can move them all down. So if I hold Control and Shift, I can gang those together and move those down together. So I'll do that. Oh, cool. But then they don't reset. Thanks, Fruits. All right. So anyways, yeah, moving right along then. We're getting things set up. Okay, so I've got my clip gain turned down. That's going to help me out. I've got everything organized. Now a big part of what I like to do is to name things properly and to color code things properly before I get too much farther. So visually, I can just at a quick glance kind of know what I'm working with, all that kind of good stuff. So what I need to do is route these in a way that makes sense to my mixer. Now the only problem is that when I drug all these in and dropped them in, I rearranged them into a way that makes sense to me. But the files back in this window here starts with the bass and the toms, the snare, clap, click, high pitch cymbal, blah blah blah. So this order that these files are in matches this order here, but it doesn't match here because I rearranged those, which is not really anybody's problem, other than I just wanted to rearrange it. Now the thing is that the features, what's really cool about FL Studio, if I highlight all of these, I could then go over here into my mixer. If I right click, I can route the selected channels starting from this track, and then so what it would do is it would just take this, track right here and route it to 1. It would take the second track and route it to 2, and it would just drop all those in for me nice and easy. But I had to be difficult, so it's going to take me just a little bit longer. That's okay. That's what happens when you set up the mix. It takes a long time to do it right. So if I go in here and just hit B and get the brush tool, I can click on this kick drum track here, and it'll highlight it for me over here in the channel rack. So what I want to do, the cool thing is the FL Studio, they added this ability to route things right next to in the channel rack here, which is super handy. So it used to take a lot longer. So all I'm going to do is just go through and click on each one and route it. So we'll go 1, 2. If there's a faster way to do this, somebody tell me. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Oops. 9, 10, 11. Whoops, I'm on the wrong one. Good job. that? 11. This is 12. This is 13. Still a lot easier than using a patch bay and patching wires, right? Just got to keep perspective on things. You don't have to spend all day patching things in. You just click it, scroll it, done. This is 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, oops, 19. That's all of them. All right, so that's all our tracks. Now I'll bus some stuff together, or I'll route things like some drum buses and that kind of thing. And I need to kind of figure out how I want to do that. As I'm listening here, do a little savey save. All right, so now I can pull up my mixer. Sounds like our tempo is right too when I pop in the metronome. Whoops, I think I have my metronome routed. Let's see here, audio. Yeah, here if you go to the audio tab in FL Studio, you can choose with this little thing right here. It says preview mixer track. That's how you can change where you can route the click to any particular track in your mixer. But if I roll it down to nothing, then it just goes to the master. And for mixing, that's what we want, obviously. Okay. Let's see, so we're got everything how we want, routed up. Okay, now I want to name and color my tracks appropriately. So what I can do here in the playlist, because everything is labeled pretty accurately, like a lot, sometimes you'll get something and it'll say like drum loop 01, 02, 06, 09, 04, symbol 02, and it's just a bunch of random stuff. It's not descriptive and I have no clue what it is, but I think in this case the file names will be just fine. So a cool thing you can do in the playlist is I can right click. You can do two things. So if I put names of stuff along here in these track slots, like if I right click this and name it something, I can then auto name the clip, and then that would change the name of this clip to what this part is right here. Or vice versa, if I have all my clips or my tracks labeled already, which is the case for me, I can right click and I can just do auto name, and then this little what would we call this? I don't know. The track slot name, and there's a little mute and all that. I don't really know. This part right here. If I right click it and auto name, it takes on the color and the name of this track. And so just to get the naming stuff done quick, I can right click and then there's a little underline under the A in auto name. So I hit A for auto name. Right click A, right click A. So I'm just going to do that. Save myself a little bit of time. Just hitting right click A. Get all that named quickly. All right, now I also like to visualize. I like to color things so that it makes sense. Usually I color my drums red, bass blue, guitar yellow. I just do it that way because I do. I don't really know why. Always good to stay hydrated when you're mixing. You don't want to pass out. That'd be terrible. So I'm gonna just kind of think here. So generally, So I've got from here all the way down to about here are individual hits. So this is kind of like a here to here is like kind of a drum kit, and then here and here all the way down. These are different drum loops. So I think I'm just going to organize it that way. And so I'm just going to right click and then I'll change my color. Let's do my drums red. Rename color, and then this little color will just appear here really quick, so I can do that. Right click, rename color, and choose my color. Just going to do that for all of these single hit drum samples that I've got up at the top here. That. Lovely. Alright, so that's all my single hit stuff. And so what I'll probably do is I'll probably bus all that together as kind of a drum bus for this first A section here that we see. And then there's a bunch of drum loops here that kind of have different tonalities, and they come from like different samplers or different drum machines. And so they'll need to be mixed differently, and so I probably won't bus them together because they sound very different, and they don't really need to have like a cohesive sound because they don't, and he doesn't want that. So I think what I'll do, just to kind of keep things clear for myself, again, this is just an arbitrary decision, I'm going to color all of my drum loops purple. And why did I do them purple? Because that's what I wanted to do. It just felt right. I was deeply convicted to make these drum loops purple. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so I've got my single hit drums red. These are drum loops are purple. You know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to color code. So this first section, here's kind of an A section here, and these loops belong to that. And then there's kind of a B section and then an ending. And what I'm going to do is maybe color code these a little bit differently. Maybe make these like kind of a brighter purple or something. So it kind of makes sense. Visually, I can have kind of a quick reference of, okay, if I'm in the middle section here, generally I'll use these lighter purple ones or whatever. And this is just a personal visual like workflow thing for me. If you don't need to do this, that's cool too. Oh, you know what? These go at the end too. Whatever. It'll help. Alright, and I've got my bass, which I like to do blue. Guitar, I generally do yellow. Strings, I usually do brown. I don't know why. I have no idea. That's brown enough. Great. All right, we'll do a savey save. There, now we're color coded and things kind of make sense, and that's all cool. We've got things named up in a way that makes sense. Only problem is, let's see here. Now I don't, because I didn't use the automatic track routing, I don't have, it didn't name my tracks in my mixer view. That kind of sucks. Let's see here. Can't do that. Oh, it's just going to play. That's cool. Trying to think how to, yeah, I think I'm just going to have to go back and, that's a bummer. Channel routing. I've got a keyboard shortcut. If I hit Control L, I can route selected channel to this track. That gives me the name there. So unfortunately, I'm just going to have to do it this way, and you guys get to like it. Track 4. So this is something I'll have to figure out for my workflow. Make it better, because it's kind of slow. But it is what it is. Ten, 11. This is only 19 tracks. That can get pretty hairy when you have 50. Oh my gosh, that'd be terrible. Just talking to myself. 14 goes there. 15 goes here. 16, there it is, way up top. 17 goes there. 18 goes there. 19. Yes! Alright, there we go. So that's all cool. And then I have 1 through, let's see here. High pitch symbol was the last one. What do you think? Is it going to let me read it? Change all the colors. Oh, nice. Nice. I didn't know you could do that. Cool. All right. So then I've got up through glitch beat is my dark purple. Oh, I'm so pumped that you can do this. This is what I was saying earlier, to be able to select multiple tracks. And change the parameters of multiple tracks at once. That pleases me greatly. Alright, so and then up through 3/4 beat, 64 BPM. This is gonna be my lighter color here, right? Yep. Bass is blue, guitar is yellow. Whoops. Oh, I didn't do that right. Guitar needs to go to 17. Route to selected track. Why is that not working? I don't know. There we go. I have my routing goofed up there. Alright, then I need strings to go here. Yeah, now we're cooking. Alright, this is my ugly brown color for my strings. Alright, now we're all set up. Do a savey save. It's gonna be awesome. There we go. Okay, so now we need to Oops. Oh, click and drag. Lovely. So I wanted to do a move here and drop this down. I'm probably going to start about -6. Let's see where that puts my master fader. I do this differently kind of based on the project. Yeah, kick. Man, the kick is still hitting about -2. So we want to get our... We'll pull it back a little bit. So I did everything at -6. We're going to go to -9. Yeah, that's looking good. That's more like -5. So that's something to consider when you're mixing too, is like you want to make sure that your gain staging is right. I guess I still call it gain staging. Yeah. Because if you can't hear things very well, it's better to turn your mix down and look at your levels that you're working with, so you're not smashing you're not peaking 0 or clipping, even going above 0 on your master fader. Turn stuff down in your DAW and then turn up the volume on your speakers. Like that's something I did when I very first started mixing. Like it wasn't loud enough, so I just turned the mix up instead of turning my speakers up, which was stupid, obviously. So anyways, there's that. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do, feeling like that I've got everything set up kind of how I need it to be, is I'm going to bus a few things together. And bussing, if you don't know, means that you just route a bunch of tracks. For example, like all the single hit drums I've got here, I'm going to route those to a single bus or a single track so that I can then control the level of all of those things all at once, instead of having, if I think, oh wow, those single hit drums are a little loud, having to move all these faders all at once. So I'm just going to do single, call this single hit drum bus. And usually what I do, and again, this is for no reason other than I just do it, I make my buses, whether it's like an effects bus or whatever, I make them black. And I don't really know why, that's just what I do. And then I know that I can hold, if I hold Alt while I have that track selected, I can move it around in here. And what I always do, if I bus things together, like if I bus all these drum things together, then I just put the bus for that to the right of it, right next to it. Oh, people are getting demanding, want me to play the music. Okay, here you go. So I'm going to route this while you can hear it. So one thing to note here, if you look down at the routing for the kick drum, you can see that with the little strands here, so it's routed over to the master bus right here. And then you see it strings over and it's routed to this single hit drum bus here too. And so what I don't want to happen is I don't want it to play through the master and through this channel, because then it essentially doubles it up. So it's playing it twice as loud, which obviously you don't want that. So all I want it to do is go to the bus instead of the master and the bus. So I'm just going to turn the send off to the master there. Okay, and I'll do that for all of these actually. I can just real quickly turn it off, move it over, turn it off, move it over. I'll turn all that off, and then I'm going to route to this track only. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. So, and I'm just turning the volume all the way up so it plays loud all the way. Full volume. I'm just clicking on it and then turning it up. So as I move through here, you can see all these channels are routed. That little indicator there, the patch cable, so to speak, does that. But you notice that they're not routed to the master. So the only way these single hit drums go to the master is through this bus. So I'll put that down to -9 also. So in terms of sound, nothing changes, but how I control all these drums, I can turn them up with one fader instead of this. That's pretty basic stuff, but if you don't know, that's something you can do. Alright. Let's bring this back down to 9. Okay, so, and then these are just drum loops for the next section, then drum loops for the ending section. So I'm not going to bus those together. So really, I think that's about all I need for now. I'll have some effects buses later, like some verbs, delays, whatever. So I think I'm ready to mix. What is that, like half hour, 40 minutes later? Who knows? So what I want to do is just get a static mix. And this isn't, the dynamics from section to section in this song don't change drastically. Sometimes they do, and so you have to automate a little bit even when you're doing, like if you do a static mix, it just doesn't work because maybe sections are, like, the instrumentation or the levels are wildly different. But it's pretty kind of standard all the way across in this song, so I'm just going to get a static mix, meaning I'm just going to move faders and get something I like. So there's a lot of ways you can do this. You can start with the drums, depends what kind of song it is. I'm just going to go from the beginning and mix it in because there's just so many drums here and not much else. This isn't really a normal normal mix. So I'm just going to start. If you're doing like a rock mix, you might start with a kick and mix up the drum, get the drums sounding good together, and then bring in the bass or the vocal after that. But this is not a standard track. If you remember, the bass is supposed to play a pretty major part. Okay, oops, I'm going to have another go at that, just from the beginning here. The beginning is probably the most complex part. All right. So, well, as I'm listening through this, I'm kind of in my mind developing like how am I going to get this to have clarity, because it's just drums stacked upon drums, right? And so it's an interesting effect, but getting everything to kind of poke through in its own way or in its own kind of range and be heard like in the right way is kind of could be pretty challenging. So, so here's what I would think about. So I've got at the beginning, I've got these drum loops happening. with the bass. And I've got all the single hit stuff up here. And then it brings in some other drum loops along with it in here. So the way I see it, I have like little, it just kind of injects little loops here and there, but these loops don't go constantly. So this is, the single hit is kind of, for the main A section is just my main thing, and I'll probably pan these a little bit and help them feel like they're kind of like peeking in, but definitely make it feel spacious, like they're, in terms of EQ and panning, like they're not part of this stuff. All right, so let's see here. Okay, I think what I'll do is within this drum bus, I'll do a little bit of panning next. That's what I like to do once I get a static mix that's usable. So here's a place where I'm just going to loop this section because this is a place where all of the single hit drums are in, so I can get a good sense of where they should fit in the pan of the stuff. I'm just going to solo all these here and work with this. So usually I want the kick down the middle. I'm going to pan these toms a little bit, and then pan my snare to the right. I'll pan my snare a little bit opposite. Alright, so what that does is I'm just making some space here. I'm not panning anything hard right or hard left. But usually, like the high-pitched stuff, like maybe rides, clicks, claps, stuff that's more high frequency, like I pan it a little bit wider to give it a little more sense of space. Then like the snare, the toms. If this is a rock song, you'd kind of pan the drums how they would sound when you're listening to the drums. Like the snares kind of, hi-hats off to the left, snares a little bit of left, and the toms would kind of pan. Rack toms, floor tom would pan more to the right, all that stuff. But with this, I'm just trying to create some space so that using panning, if there's sounds that are happening at the same time, like there's two snares happening at the same time, I have one panned a little bit left, one panned a little bit right. Kick is pretty thuddy. Those toms would ring quite a bit. Alright, that'll work for now. Let's see here. Bring everything back. See here. Listen to this. Alright, just kind of refreshing myself and how wants it to sound. My setup, somebody asked. I just have a MacBook that I use. I'm booting in Windows actually because FL Studio still is only Windows, but Mac Beta is here, or Alpha. So probably in the next year they'll have FL Studio for Mac. And I just have, I'll show you. Yamaha HS8s. I like them because they're, in my price range, they're the most kind of like honest, clear speakers. They're sort of a nice cousin to the NS10s, kind of the standard mixing monitors. But like Mackies and stuff like that, and M Audios and the KRKs especially are like super colored and hype your bass and that kind of thing. So I didn't really like that for mixing, at least. I mean, for listening back, it's cool to have hype bass and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's my setup. And I've got like a Fire Studio Project for recording, headphone amp, a couple just pieces of outboard gear, but I'm pretty much mixing the box exclusively. I mix in the box, and I have just some basic hardware stuff for recording, like multi-tracking, that kind of thing. I actually have a friend who has a studio. He's got a bunch of great mics and preamps and compressors. Like he's got distressors and universal audio preamps, like a lot of great stuff. And I go in there and just kind of plug into his rig and record like that. So that's what I do. I go record at other studios. I don't have like a great studio setup here necessarily. So if you can find people who like to record and will let you drop in your computer into their rig, it's pretty sweet setup. I don't have a SoundCloud right now just because I'm doing stuff for other people. Like what I'm mixing right now is somebody else's tune. A guy named JonnDeVon. You can check him out. JonnDeVonn, I think. Here. There it is right there. This dude. Good friend of mine. He makes really awesome music. JonnDeVon. Sorry, I had it backwards. Yeah, so this is a Sunlux track I'm using as a reference. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna pan. Let's see here. Yeah, and when I pan these, it helps get a lot of separation. Like these are the drum loop things here. These are dark purple tracks are drum loops that go along with the single hit drums. So I'm panning those a little bit left, a little bit right, depending on where they're happening in the song. And that helps them get separation from the other stuff. I'll do EQing and that kind of thing too, but I'm just panning first to kind of work my way there. Now some people will mix in mono for a really long time, and you can do that, and maybe that's a better way. That's just not how I do it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not totally sure. But you at least want to do a static mix in mono before you start panning stuff and getting it kind of where you want it to go. Yeah, I'll do EQ here in a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of cool there. I'm going to go to the next section and see how things sound. Pan those a little bit to get a little separation. That's pretty funny. That reverb guitar sound is just super overpowering. Okay. Well, let's see here. So I think I've kind of panned some things so it's separated a little bit better, and I'm gonna go just kind of section by section. Like we have an A section here, a B, and then kind of a C ending section here. So I'm gonna work on that first, and what I'm gonna do is do some first off, I'll do some cutting of some frequencies that I don't need, like a lot of low-end stuff, out of appropriate instruments. Like I'll leave it in the kick drum and those kind of things, but some of the other stuff, I'm just going to cut it out. All right, so listen to this snare. Yeah, see, that's not even like a big fat snare. That's like has a lot of crack to it. So what I'm going to do is just use what's this track here. I just, instead of putting adding an effect in, I just use there's some built-in stuff in FL Studio here where you can do, there's a 3-band thing here where you can do shelves, and you can move it where you want to. So I'm going to drop it in about 100 and do a 9 dB cut there. Especially since it's a real crispy snare, it's not supposed to be fat. And let's listen to this. We'll solo this one, see how it sounds. Oh, this is reverse. Yeah, so that definitely doesn't need any low end either. So do a cut, and put about 100. Yep, and that thing, and where the claps. About clicks. That's got a little bit of, maybe a little bit low in it. I'm gonna do the same thing there. I'm gonna drop it down. Take about do a 9 dB cut. This is just kind of like a rough idea there. About 100. I'm cutting 9 dB, about 100 hertz there. I wouldn't do that all the way across the board. Just all this high pitch, kind of more high frequency percussive stuff that doesn't need the low end. Just cutting that out. Let's see here, and then we've got this. That's got a kick in it, so I don't really want to mess with that. That's got a kick. I think these all have a kick in them. Yep. Probably the guitar would be something I could work with here. One thing I like to do is on my current track in FL Studio, or like your selected track, like if I select this track or this one, it'll play back what's being played. So this is my current track, and it shows on this big meter what's going on. But I can also, on the current or selected track, I can do effects. So what I like to do is throw in just like a spectrum analyzer, not spectrum analyzer, it would be a frequency analyzer. Yeah. This is one that I like personally. It's from Melda Production, the M Analyzer. It's just really simple, but then I can see it shows me what's going on. It shows me down here in color, and then also here I can, so anytime I just select a track, whatever track I select, then it will, if I unmute this, play it from here, so I can hit the kick, pull up that. Sorry, hang on a second here. Normally the way I do this is I have a second monitor, like a laptop, and I would have that analyzer somewhere else. Because, here, let's see if I can do, whoops. Yeah, I've got the kick selected. So you can see there's not much happening above 1K. Just a little bit. A lot of the magic is right here around the 50 to 70, around 75, which is no surprise. And then there's another one around 100, 120, 130. So that's just something I do. I put it on my current track. I put an effect on the current track, in that effect slot for the current track. I'll put an analyzer so that I can look at stuff real quick in a frequency analyzer, just to see what's going on there. So there's that. Alright, so, I was going to cut, I'll do a little bit of a low cut on the, this is just kind of my like starting point, do a -9 dB at 100 on this guitar track, because it's really sparkly and it doesn't need the low end. We'll just kind of keep that out of the way. Other than that, that's probably all the low cutting, low shelf I'm doing there. Alright. So first step in the song is this couple drum loops in the bass. So it's not very punchy or prominent, and we're going for something like this. Yeah, it's like super compressed and really hot, almost has some drive to it. Plenty of like saturation, squishiness. So what I'm going to do is let's see how I want to do this. Yeah, we'll just hop over into that here. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to grab plugin called Density Mark III, and this is from, let's see, which one? Variety of Sound, I think. There's Variety of Sound, and then there's another free plugin company. What is it? Tesla's the other one then. Let's see here. No, this is from the same company. Hold on, I forget where it's from now. Density Mark III. Yeah, Variety of Sound. And I've got some other stuff and other free plugins I'll use from them too, but I'm going to use Variety of Sound Density Mark III because it's a great, colorful, like just bus compressor, and it works good. For me, it works good on kind of like squishing drums and making them really fat. So first I'm going to just run some compression on this. And I'm just going to loop solo and loop this section here so I can hear what's going on. Yeah, so the way this works is you have to turn up, this is a drive, you turn up the input. You can see that it's starting to do some gain reduction there. So this is the threshold, I think. It's called range, but it acts like a threshold. See, it's barely doing anything, and then as I turn up the threshold, you can see it's doing more and more gain reduction there. I'm looking for maybe 6 dB-ish. And then I want, and this is timing, this has like attack and release settings, so it has a 2 millisecond and 150 millisecond release, and 300 millisecond release, etc., etc. So I don't want it to be too fast so that it kills all the. See, P4 here has like a really slow release. You can see it's when it's recovering, it goes back pretty slow, and then this one is much faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'll use the auto setting, auto release, because that usually helps it. So as I'm working here, I'm kind of getting the sound I want, and then I A/B it, or I turn it off. And as hoped, I need to turn up the makeup gain, and that's where you really get the magic. Because I compressed it so it decreased the volume. Okay, that's sounding pretty good. And I've got the Tesla Pro here, which is like a drive saturation. Has different colors like contemporary, US console, British, tube, and tape. Kind of emulate general sounds of things. I'm going to boost this up to 12. Turn the drive all the way up. There's some presets in here too. So I'm just adding some saturation here. It kind of does, and there's some compression that can happen over here too. It kind of emulates like a console or a tape machine there. So I'm just working on getting that sounding kind of gritty, a little bit fatter. You know, I'm not sure that that's even enough, to be honest. I want to push it probably even harder than that. Think what's going to be good to push that more. Man, I used to have a tube drive. Bummer. All right, well, I think this has been long enough. I'll do some more mixing on this later. You can check it out. But I think I'm out of here. Have a good one.